Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. So,
Thank you.
as I mentioned, we were just going to go and dive into your coaching journey because I think that your coaching journey is going to be so inspirational for anybody else who might be considering coaching or thinking, is this for me? Or thinking, can I really get what I want? Like, is it even possible for me? So you have been an absolute dream to work with and to support on your journey. And I wondered if you'd mind just sharing a little bit about where you were before coaching. What made you sign up for coaching in the first place?
Sure. I think, to put it very simply, what brought me to coaching was that I felt quite stuck. I wasn't struggling on a sort of visible day-to-day basis. In fact, I had just come out of a period of intense grief and difficulty in my personal life. And I had sort of dealt with that on a fundamental level through therapy and sort of traditional um, emotional healing. But I was struggling to get to sort of the next phase beyond that, which was I knew that there's certain things I wanted to accomplish to restart my life, so to speak, which were kind of always in one way or another experiencing change and restarting something, right? But it it had been such an intense few years and then sort of just status quo of feeling fine, but not really kind of figuring out what my future goals were and being able to actually accomplish what I want and maybe unlearning some old habits that were causing me to sort of feel a little bit, as I said, stuck. So that's sort of what a friend recommended coaching. And she said that, sometimes you just need that push to get you to the next level, whether it's professionally, personally, or even just in bringing out the best version of yourself on a day-to-day basis. So that's what brought me to coaching. I'm going to pause in case I have missed anything from your question or.
No, absolutely not. That's such a beautiful encapsulation. Hang on. By the way, if you can hear a kitten in here, I've got my kitten in the room who had an operation yesterday.
Oh,
She was
oh,
sterilized, so she's just hanging
oh,
out with us today in here, but she's
okay.
yowling around my feet. In case you're like, what is that? I love what you shared there, so thank you. And I know I really picked out three words from our first session together where you said, this is what I want, this is the vision I'm building. And you talked about love, and you talked about adventure, and you talked about togetherness, three areas that you really wanted to up level, that you wanted to shift and change what was happening in those areas. So I wondered if you'd mind just sharing a bit about the coaching process and also where you are now.
Sure. You know, I really think that this whole coaching experience was teamwork. I think I would come out of every session feeling very inspired because obviously you are great at what you do. You asked me the right questions. We reflected a lot together. We did all these, centering exercises together that kind of brought me to a little bit of the crux of what was holding me back on some of those things, but also what I could do to bring myself to the next level or take the next step in whatever I was trying to achieve that day, whether I was coming to you with, worries about, my professional life, how to, build healthy relationships in a romantic sense again, whatever it was. But when I would come out of those sessions, so I would feel much better in the first instance, but it would take a lot of work between that session, that moment, our next session to actually maintain that. And there were a couple of times where I would find myself sort of losing sight of what I was meant to work on. And then it took a few sessions for me to realize that there's the work that I need to put in between those sessions to either do some of those exercises again to come back to sort of the fundamentals of what we're trying to accomplish, to come back to myself, but also to take those steps once you realize what they are, whether it's, to reach out to someone new, to start networking again, to go on a date and put yourself out there, to um, not question yourself when you feel a certain way and actually listen to your gut, whatever it was. That there was a lot of that for me. And then I realized that the more I was doing that, the more confident I was becoming. So it was, making the most out of these sessions, putting what we learn into practice, and then realizing that the more I put it into practice, the more confident I am with the tools that have probably always been within me. But you just sometimes, as an adult, you deal with so many milestones in your life that by the time you reach this point, you're like, I kind of lost sight of what makes me me and what works for me. And sometimes that's always changing. So it's always good to have the support to kind of figure that out. And I really feel like that's what the process was for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Such a beautiful reminder that actually it's not one-off fix. As we're actually shifting and changing, we're creating new neural pathways in the brain, and we have to reinforce these in order for them to stick. Otherwise, change happens, and then being the humans that we are, we just fall right back into our old predictable patterns. So it really involves work, like sticking to the practices, doing the integration,
Yeah,
actually making these changes in between so that when change comes, it sticks so strongly that you never find yourself falling back strongly.
yeah,
I'm just
totally.
using that as a word. It's not actually a word. But it sticks and it's so strong
It
that
works. It's
that
strong is not a word. I didn't know that.
we're inventing today. But it sticks and it's so strong that you find that those old pathways, you don't even remember them. And I think that's where we got to in our work. I remember I reminded you in our last session about how we'd started the coaching container. And I reminded you about that very, very first session and the things that you had come to me with. And then you looked around your life today and you were like, oh my goodness. Because what does your life look like today?
It's obviously in some areas, as we always are, it's always going to be a work in progress. There's stuff that I'm still working on that we've been talking about for a while. But there have been some major, major takeaways that have transformed the way I approach difficult situations and relationships. First of all, I definitely feel like my relationships in general, whether it's with my partner, whether it's with friends, whether it's with my parents, my family, has improved because I feel like I'm focusing less on the stuff that I cannot control, but still bringing more of myself to situations. So I think that one of the things I was telling my partner recently was that, between meeting you and working with Helena, I feel like I'm just showing up in the most honest version of myself. And that's not a version that's, um, emotionally unhinged or um, oversharing or overly emotional or anything like that. It's not like I'm just being an extreme version and expecting everyone around me to accept it. But I feel like I am more secure in what I'm sharing and in the way that I'm interacting with all of you, that I have, a loving bond with. And as a result, that's sort of deepening our bond because you realize that when you show up as that version, other people also feel comfortable to show up in that way, and that actually brings you closer together. Obviously, there has been a lot of unlearning from past relationships that don't work. There has been a lot of forgetting about certain childhood traumas that maybe were kind of still lingering and interfering in some of my day-to-day interactions. But generally speaking, I feel more comfortable just being me in my close relationships and seeing how they blossom from there. And the other thing, maybe this currently for me is a bit more applicable to my professional life because there's some changes I'm working on. But it's this thing about breadcrumbing, which we've talked about a lot, and I really kind of keep coming back to that. Whatever sort of opportunities come my way, I sort of just take it as that, as an opportunity. And it's okay if it's a short-term opportunity. It's okay if it's one conversation. It's okay if I just take even one learning out of it. But it's all sort of leading me to where I actually want to be. And it doesn't need to happen today or tomorrow, overnight or next month. But as long as I feel that I'm moving and making traction, which has a lot to do with how much effort I put in as well, I feel like I'm getting somewhere. So right now, I feel like the stuff that I'm working on, but I feel like there's passion and fire in me to at least work on those things. And I think that's what was missing before. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot of change in the last 1 year, less than a year, in fact. But still so much that I'm excited about. And those are sort of the biggest differences I think that coaching has brought to my life.
So I'm really hearing as you talk this new comfort in just who you are. Like that's
Yeah.
the biggest change any of us can ever make, and we completely underestimate it. And we go,
Yeah.
oh, just that, feeling comfortable in
Yeah.
who I am, how I interact, how I
Yeah.
show, how I
Yeah.
this is really the essence of the work is about how can we embody more fully who we are authentically at our core. And then as you see, everything starts to shift your relationships to family, to partners, to your work. And this is always ongoing work. It's not a one-time fix. We don't get to somewhere and we're suddenly enlightened. Or I haven't met anybody that has managed to do that. This
Yeah.
this is ongoing work, but you described some really, really profound shifts and changes, which can be easy to kind of just smooth over and go, oh, it's just what it is. Because when change happens at the deepest level, we don't remember who we were before. And you talked about self-doubt, which was massive for you,
Yeah.
how to show up more confidently, how to be more confident speaking, saying what you want, expressing your needs, which has been such a huge part of your work, actually embodying that, using your voice, learning what those needs are, which for
Yeah.
so many of us, we've kind of, buried
Yeah.
our childhood conditioning and circumstances and old wounds. And it's actually revealing, actually, now I know what I want and I can express it. That's some of the biggest work that we can ever do in our lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it requires a bit of ripping your heart open in order to figure out what's in there and what you want to do with all of it. So,
Yes, yes. And then having the confidence to actually take action, to know what you want, to know what your values are, to know what you want authentically, and then move towards it. When I look at your life now, when we started work, you didn't have a partner, you were still dating. And now I look at what you've built in terms of relationship, and it's phenomenal.
yeah, it
Those
is.
three words that we said at the beginning of our work together: love, adventure, togetherness.
Yeah. Yeah.
How far have you come on that spectrum in a year?
I would say that I have all those things, and because I do, I'm dare to dreaming of even more. So,
Yes. And that's the thing as humans, we do. We hit our goals and we go, oh, and now what's next? And sometimes we forget to look back and go, okay, this is
yeah,
actually how far I've come.
yeah,
And so when I see in your life, we talked about all the adventures that you've been on just this past Christmas, the past festive season, like incredible adventures around the world that your heart was craving for, this love, this loving, incredible partner that you have brought into your life in the last year, this sense of togetherness, somebody to join you on this journey. You have brought all of this into your life and
yeah,
now the mind goes, okay, what's next? which is totally normal and totally part of being human. But just to see you and your journey from where you were to where you are today, and the relationships that you strengthen, not just love in your with your partner, but also with your family and with your friends in your social circles, to see those blossom and those grow, and then to see the places that you've stepped in and owned who you are and your voice and your expression and your needs, and really stepped in and owned that confidence, that has been incredible to witness.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining. I mean, is there anything that you'd like to say to anybody that's sitting on the fence going, I don't know if coaching is actually going to work for me?
Then they just need to do one of your intro calls. I remember we had our first call. It was the intro call before either of us had committed to anything, and I feel like I shared things with you that I hadn't even felt like I had thought of. So I think it's just about realizing that you'll have a safe space to share. And then, what you do from there is totally optional, but it's worth a shot and worth a start at least. Because if nothing else, you walk away feeling you shared something with someone. And it was, I would say, just a really safe way to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, you might go on the same journey that you've been on, which is to rocket fuel your life in all of the areas that you wanted to. And now
Exactly.
there's always the next level. There will always be a new level for each and every one of us. But your journey from where you have been to where you are today has really been so beautiful to witness. So
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
would tell anyone, if you're looking for practical but also grounding ways to kind of meet your goals, figure out where you're at emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and then take it from there. I feel like coaching is probably the most effective way to do that.
Yes, yeah. And some of the ways and the methods that we work through today probably aren't what you would have in traditional coaching. So I do work a little bit differently. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you would like to say about that and my process?
Wow, it was profound. Even I wasn't expecting it. Even when you told me, I was like, yeah, 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 okay. But some of the exercises we did, kind of going back to childhood via hypnotherapy, the creatrix method. Wow, that one was. I don't think I'm gonna do justice in still describing what it's like, but actually going back to fundamental exercises that make us question fundamental beliefs that we have, and unlearning them and figuring out, why they exist in the deep, 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 deep subconscious of us. And then realizing that they don't really need to be there at all because we don't know why they're there, or maybe we do, and they just don't apply to our lives really, and maybe never did. I think those exercises were really, really shifting for me. And then talking through them, through our general coaching sessions and coming back to them as we went forward in conversation, I think that really, really helped. But some of that subconscious work, I think, was really fundamental and unique to what you offer, Helena. So, um, yeah, the mix of those with the coaching sessions and the centering exercises that I kept coming back to, that I think really brought it full circle for me.
Yeah, because I think sometimes for people with coaching, they think it's quite practical, quite strategic, and it can be with many coaches. But the coaching that I find, which is most profound for clients, is actually shifting at the very, very root. Those deep beliefs, which are actually informing everything that we're doing. And if we don't go back and relook and upgrade those, we're not building a foundation for everything else that we build upon. So thank you so much for being with us today and just sharing your journey. It has been an honor to witness. It's been an absolute joy to have you as a client and to watch you blossom and to see how much more there will be for you as well.
Likewise, I hope to keep sharing with you and I hope to come back to this. Um, a few things to work on and but it'll always be a work in progress and I will always come back to coaching.
I'm always a work in process. We're always a work in progress. If you ever meet anybody that says they're done, finished, and all their inner work, run a mile, is my recommendation. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much and have an amazing day ahead.
Thank you.